Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun scroll saw project video, have another Easter Bunny themed design for Easter 2025. Easter is fast approaching, my friends, and this project does cater to the fun and fanciful side of the Easter holiday with the Easter Bunny, the Easter eggs, and things like that. But let's never forget the true and powerful meaning of the Easter holiday and the very religious meaning of the Easter holiday. This is a Steve Good design in case you guys want to go and download it and try it out in your garage or workshops. I've already got the pattern printed out to its full size, prepped, and attached to our material with clear packing tape. And here is all of the material we're going to be needing for today's scroll saw project. It doesn't take up a lot of material. As a matter of fact, pretty much everything here with the exception of the biggest piece came out of the scrap bin, so a great way to use up some of that ever accumulating scrap wood. The biggest piece of the scroll saw work is the Easter Bunny himself, and you can see his big floppy ears there in profile. You have his face. So once you get all the parts and pieces cut out, painted or stained, and glue them together, it's going to have kind of a 3D appearance to it once it is complete, and I really like projects like that. And you'll notice that there is tabs on this project, so it is a tabbed and slotted design, so we're going to have to be as careful as we can be with cutting out those parts of the pattern to make sure everything lines up and slots together properly. But we're going to cut him out of a single piece of 1/4 inch material, and then you have the base here, and the base I believe was a cutoff of something I had made a bigger base for because it has a decorative edge there. It does consist of 3/4 inch pine, and you can see right there where we're going to cut out, and I redrew the slots there to accept the tabs, you know, to be the proper thickness of the 1/4 inch material I use, because not all 1/4 inch material is true 1/4 inch in thickness. But we will cut that out. Then you have a couple of decorative Easter eggs, and they also have the tabs there that will go into the slots. You have the Easter Bunny's front paws and his hind legs here, and we're going to take advantage of stack cutting and make both of those at one time. So we'll have both front paws and both back paws by cutting out just one single pass there, and that's a very small paw up there at the top, not even as big as my fingernail, so we'll be careful to keep up with it. And then the Easter Bunny is going to be holding a sign that says Happy Easter, and because there is some fragile and delicate cuts in the Happy Easter word, you can see how small that the portion of the sign is there. I am going to stack cut and make two of these at one time, even though I only need one of them to complete today's project, so please keep that in mind. But if you are uncomfortable with cutting out letters that small over on the scroll saw, Steve Good also goes above and beyond with all the patterns he offers on his catalog, and he offered an option here. If you're uncomfortable with cutting out those small letters, as I said, you could cut out a blank sign here and go in with some acrylic paints or a nice pen or something like that and write in whatever you want to. Or if you had access to a laser engraver, you could engrave a nice Easter quote, verse, or scripture on it, so really neat. And as I said, Steve Good always goes above and beyond, and I said we're going to stack cut the paws, the front paws and back legs, but Steve Good always draws out each individual piece you need for each and every pattern he produces, always going above and beyond with his amazing work. But since everything is pretty much prepped and ready to go, the Easter Bunny is indeed hippity-hopping his way, my friend, and we need to complete him. So let's move the camera and drill the pilot holes and get started. And over here on the workbench, I'm taking the Seiko Scroller's drill and a very small drill bit and drilling out all of the pilot holes for internal cutting. And you'll see that I have a backer board behind the scroll work to prevent blowout of the pilot holes on the reverse side. But after all of the pilot holes are drilled, it'll be time to begin scrolling. And for all of the scrolling on this project, I'll be using a number 5 Ultra reverse tooth blade, and it will cut through all thicknesses of material in today's project exceptionally well with minimal chip out. Beginning here with the word Easter in the Happy Easter sign itself, and keep in mind I'm stack cutting and making two of these at one time out of 1/4 inch material. Even though only one is needed, I'm stack cutting to offer some support to those fragile letters that we are cutting out. But we are almost done with the word Easter here, and then I will switch to a closer view for you guys to hopefully get a better vantage point. And we will cut out the word Happy, and you can see that I am being as loyal as I can be to the cut line, and I am of course taking my time and letting the blade do the work. If you guys would like to try this pattern, it's available as a free pattern download over at Steve Good's scrollsawworkshop.blogspot.com website over in his free pattern catalog. This was a project I seen and I knew I had to bring it to life, and a lot of the scroll saw work is in this little sign we are still cutting out, but keep in mind that Steve Good offers options in the pattern pack you download to where you can actually leave the sign blank and go in with paints and just paint your own words or quote on the sign without having to do the delicate scroll saw work here by cutting out each individual letter. But now I'm going to work on the base here, and this is a scrap piece of 3/4 inch pine, and you will see that I will cut out the slots, and I'll take a same piece of the 1/4 inch material to quickly test fit it while I am at the scroll saw to make sure that it is a nice snug fit. Once we get to the assembly process, I will test fit all of the slots as I cut them out. But here we are cutting out the last one, and I will of course test fit the piece in it, and now we can begin releasing the pieces from the waste wood. Of course, the 3/4 inch pine here is a little bit of a slower cut as opposed to the 1/4 inch material. Releasing the signs from the waste wood here. Again, we stack cut those. And if you guys like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. Here we are cutting out the bunny rabbit's hind legs and his front paws, and those two pieces are very, very small, and I was very careful to keep up with those. But now we are releasing the Easter Bunny himself. And please keep in mind that a fresh, sharp scroll saw blade will simply fly through 1/4 inch material. Just be aware of that while you are scrolling. But after all of the scroll saw work is done, it's time to come over to the workbench and remove the pieces from the waste wood, and I'll do a dry fit here to get our first visual of the finished project. And I'll also test to make sure the tabs and slots fit together before heading over to sanding with 180 grit Klingspor woodworking shop sandpaper and the vibrating palm sander. And I'll sand the front and back of each piece individually here. And I will take the base and I will kind of round over what will be the top to make it a little bit more comfortable to hold in the palm. But then we will head over to the workbench again, and I'll sand the smallest pieces by hand, the Easter Bunny's front and hind legs here. Again, those are very small pieces. And with a saved photo of the finished project on my phone from Steve Good's pattern pack, we can assemble the Easter Bunny with medium grade CA glue and activator, and I'll make sure that the glue has dried and cured completely before getting ready to add splashes of color to bring this project to life. And I'm going to use several shades of Rust-Oleum spray paints here. For the Easter Bunny, I am doing him a bright white color, so he has kind of a Peter Cottontail appearance. But I'll hang him on a hook to dry. And sometimes I do have to come back and do touch-ups with the spray paint. For the base, we'll spray paint it a nice green color for the spring and Easter grass. And then for the 2 Easter eggs and the sign that says Happy Easter, I'll do 3 other colors of Rust-Oleum spray paints. And I'll use this piece of cardboard here to kind of shield to make sure I'm not getting color on the other pieces. And then it will be time to wait for everything to dry. And it does take a little bit of time for all of the spray paint to dry to the touch. But after it was dry, it was time to begin the final glue up and assembly, and I'm going to be using more medium grade CA glue and activator here. And at the top of the screen you can see my bag of carrots that I like to snack on while I'm out in the workshop. But everything slides together smoothly here. And I'll again give the glue around 5 minutes to make sure it has completely cured, and then we will be ready to apply a finish. And for a finish, I will use several coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss. And once it dries, the project is complete. And here we have the completed Easter Bunny Happy Easter sign, cut out completely over on the scroll saw from start to finish, and he has some nice visuals in it for the Easter season and holiday. Thank you, Steve Good, for another fantastic design from your pattern catalog. Once again, this is available in Steve Good's pattern catalog if you would like to go and download it and try it for yourselves out in your garage or workshops. I'm really happy with how this project finished up, and it has some nice springtime vibes to it. It took me around 35 minutes to scroll it out completely over on the scroll saw. It's not an overly complex design, it's just with the nature of it being a slotted and tab design, you want to be as loyal as you can be to the cut line, and of course take your time and let the blade do the work. So once you get everything cut out, those slots and tabs go together smoothly during your assembly process. Again, it took me around 35 minutes to cut everything out, and the most tedious part for me to cut out in today's project, of course, was all of the individual letters that make up the words Happy Easter there in the sign. And again, I took my time and let the blade do the work, but as Steve Good has in the pattern pack, if you are uncomfortable cutting out little letters like that, you can of course cut out the blank sign and go in with paints or paint pens or things like that and make your own custom sign. So always options and versatility with each and every scroll saw project and pattern you come across. And the time I had in today's project was waiting for paints and clear coats to dry. Again, 35 minutes to cut everything out, then we sanded everything up nice and smooth, and then I painted everything with Rust-Oleum spray paints to give it a nice spring and Easter vibe with a colorful appearance as it has here. And I just had to wait for that stuff to dry to the touch so we could then do the assembly with medium grade CA glue and activator, and then I clear coated it with Rust-Oleum clear gloss, and you can see that nice glossy sheen in the shop lights there. But then I had to wait for that to dry as well. So I had more time waiting around in today's project than I did actually making the project, if that makes any sense. But if you wanted to go different routes and you wanted to paint everything up nice, you could do that as I have done here. Or if you wanted to use exotic or hardwoods and use those natural shades, grains, and textures and colors to shine through, you could totally do that and probably get the project done in maybe an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours on an early morning, as I have done here. Today it took me a good morning's work out in the workshop due to the time it took for everything to dry to the touch. But again, I'm very happy with how it came out, and because I stack cut the signs there to offer supports to those little letters there, I have another little one here to finish as I see fit. I could use it on another project. I could set it beside some Easter eggs or with some Easter flowers, or as I like to do, I can pass the piece on to a fellow woodworker and let them finish it in their own unique individual way. I hope you guys appreciate the tip that I did during the time-lapse portion. Anytime I do a slotted or tab designs, and most of them are Steve Good designs, I like to have a piece of the actual material that I am scrolling over to the side to where I can quickly, while I'm still at the scroll saw, test fit all of the slots I cut out to accept the tabs. That's what I've done with all 4 of the slots. There's 2 on the Easter Bunny, and then there's 1 on each egg on either side of him. I quickly test fit that with a scrap piece that I cut in the shape of a triangle to where it could go down in there smoothly. That way I'm not having to fiddle around later on in the process. I can do everything right there at the scroll saw. That's why I do like having an L-shaped workbench. But he is complete, and I'm very happy with how he came out as Easter fast approaches here in 2025. As intended, this is an Easter project, and that is how I finished it up for today's video. But as I always say, with each and every scroll saw pattern and project you come across, there's always options and always versatility, and I always encourage you guys to think outside of the box when you approach a scroll saw pattern. I feel like if you did not want to make this an Easter project and you just like bunny rabbits in general, you could cut it out and not cut out the Easter eggs and make your own little sign here, maybe hop into spring or springtime fun, or summer approaches or something like that if you wanted to. Or if you have greenhouses and you have a green thumb, you could make this as plant markers, again not using the Easter eggs on either side, but you could cut these out and place these around in the greenhouse with the signs saying maybe carrots, you know, vegetables, fruit, things like that if you wanted to in a greenhouse. So always options. And please keep in mind, as another option, Steve Good offers 2 sizes of the pattern that I've brought to life in today's video in a visual format. There is the smaller version that I have here in my hand, but there's also a larger version that would probably look good set on a front porch or something during the springtime. But as he is made here, and he has that nice 3/4 inch base there that's made out of a scrap piece of pine, he can easily freestand on a shelf, desk, or countertop, or even comfortably sit in a windowsill for the approaching Easter holiday and season. So really cool. Always options and versatility for each and every design you come across. And I hope in today's video, in some way, shape, or form, you have picked up a tip, trick, or tidbit from beginning to end. I know I am looking forward to Easter Sunday morning, because every Easter Sunday when I get up and I'm getting ready for Easter service at church, I always watch that show and program. It's a very old program. The Easter Bunny is Coming to Town. It's made in the style of those old Christmas movies like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and all. It's the stop motion format, but it tells the early life of the Easter Bunny, how he got his name Sonny, and then he gets an Easter train to deliver Easter baskets, Easter eggs, and jelly beans to everyone who is good during the Easter season. So I always look forward to that program and watching it each and every Easter that comes around. It's kind of a yearly tradition for me that I look forward to while getting ready for Easter service at church. But again, I'm really happy with how it came out and the way it assembled. It does have kind of a little 3D effect there, so that's something I always like with 3D projects when you cut them out over at the scroll saw. But really happy Easter, my friends. The Easter Bunny is indeed coming to town, my friends. That's about all for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you're new to the channel, hopefully you'll click that subscribe button and follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social media feeds will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one, and remember guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you guys. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon.